a red flag flying here.
Hello and welcome to the Social Ties. This is the community space for community organising, political activists and all things grassroots. I'm really pleased today to have with me Ken McCall. Hello, Ken.
How you doing? All right?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, brilliant.
Oh,
Always working.
That's what we like to hear. We don't get a lot of brilliance on this show.
You've got to make it yourself, haven't you?
You do. How lovely. Yes, you do. So, Ken, we've invited you on today. I know that you're part of a fantastic community organising group. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, pretty much started March last year when it became completely inevitable that we were kind of going to be shut away for quite a wee while. I do a lot of work with the Holland District Trades Council, and you know, we've just luckily had the facility and a number of people kind of at a bit of loose end to sit down and do something. Because I mean, especially in a place like Hull, it's not just the last year that has been absolutely miserable when you step out the door for an awful lot of people. It's been like that for the past 10 years. And it's just nothing's changing, you know, and it's something we've talked about for a while, but we can always fall into that trap of doing a lot of talk and not a lot of work. And really, when the lockdown started last year was the first time that we really thought, right, now we've got the time and we've got the single biggest reason, if there's ever a reason that comes along to do something, it's the whole COVID thing. So we sat down and kind of dragged as many people from the kind of trade union movement in and around Hull as we can. And we've got a really good solid trades council that pulls in delegates from all over the city, and we really pulled in those people straight off. And we essentially sat down and said, right, I know, let's open a food bank. And with not the slightest idea what we were doing, and that was kind of half of the joke of it. But we certainly had the will, and we had the bodies to do something. But honestly, it was almost laughable that we had so little a clue. We kind of sat there going, somebody's doing it. Loads of people are doing it, you know. And we thought, come on, the one strength that we have is the connections across the city to the labour market, and hopefully people that were still employed, to kind of get that message out to them, to say that, look, you know, if you're lucky enough to still have a job, just consider that, look around you. Every single workplace, there's people that you work side by side with, shoulder to shoulder with yesterday, that have gone. You know, they've not disappeared to some magical wonderland. They're sat at home skint, you know, and every kind of door we've knocked on since then has just kind of reinforced that. We ain't supporting kind of long-term unemployed people. They're turning into long-term unemployed people as a result of COVID, but they weren't previously. We're knocking doors, talking to people, you know, 2 parents, 2 kids, both work full-time, minimum wage last week. They were on 0 hours, now they've gone, you know, and they're in the position of having 2 kids, and now they've got 6 weeks to wait for universal credit, you know. So, and there's the stories and stories, you know, but that's the real common one at the moment. But to kind of go back to the part where we didn't have a clue, and we still pride ourselves almost on kind of being flexible and making it up as we go, if that makes sense. But so we got a core of about 5 or 6 of us, and we sat down, and it seems ridiculous. We just started Googling stuff, and we put some feelers out, and we linked up very quickly with a fantastic chap who's a bit of a celebrity in Hull, a bit of a local legend, called Joe Solo. And he put us in touch with a group called We Shall Overcome, run by Lady Pauline Town, and that's miles away. Somewhere around Manchester, I think. So we met them virtually, and they just gave us such a huge head start, everything we needed to know, you know, and that really helped us kind of point us in the right direction and get us to the point of where we at least knew where to start. Bit of form filling, picking up the phone, ringing people, and going badgering people, which, being trade unionists, we've got a talent for being a thorn in people's side, and that was really a strength. Give us money, give us stuff, give it, you know. And and especially trade unionists, they ain't scared of walking in somewhere and asking things that nobody else will, you know, with a smile on their face. And that was something we played on, plus all our connections across the city. And the single greatest part of it for me was the Trades Council year or so ago, before COVID, we actually supported and stewarded some protests for the Kurdish community in Hull, who were protesting about the actions of the Turkish government in Kurdistan. And that was instantly repaid, because just through talking to them, we talked about, you know, our wee project, and straight away the Kurdish community in Hull were like, right, we've got somewhere that you can use. We've got somewhere that you can have. And they basically, without a second thought, they gave us our community centre on Springbank to use, and they've not asked for a penny for it. And I absolutely love that, because we wouldn't be off the ground if it wasn't for the Kurdish community in and around Springbank. And I tell you what, you know, there's some scum papers around here that love to throw rocks at the people around there, throwing out all sorts of the usual racist tropes about everything. And it's just absolute crap, because we wouldn't be where we were today with the trade unionists and that Kurdish community down on Springbank that pretty much, they housed us, they put up with us, they looked after us, and didn't ask for anything in return at all, you know. And on our Facebook and stuff, you can go back and have a look at all the opening. We live streamed that, and that was from the Kurdish Community Centre, and we got speakers down and stuff. So I'm very, very, you know, proud of that connection, but I cherish it greatly as well, because it cuts through all the racist tropes that people band about, not just about that area of Hull, but, you know, I'm not going to spend 10 minutes talking about the same old shitty, stupid stereotypes that everybody who doesn't have a clue what they're on about loves to band about. And it's really completely cut through that. It's really cut through that, because we have faced, you know, I've presented at branches or presented at community organizations and stuff, and I have faced that kind of indirect, closeted racism, in terms of somebody actually asked me in a community meeting I went to once, they said, why did you pick Springbank? We all know those people can't be trusted. And that was it. You know, that after I caught my breath and thought, did he actually say that? The chair of said meeting turns round to me and says, do you want to take that question now? And I went, aye, you're bloody right, I do. And it was outcomes the same old racist nonsense. And what cut through it perfectly was the fact that we would not be here. We'd never get started if it wasn't for the kindness and the generosity of the Kurdish community in Hull and surrounding, specifically the Springbank area where we started out, because it's that's kind of the Kurdish community base, if you like. Yeah, and we've temporarily moved a bit because we're refurbishing and stuff like that. But they moved us out, refurbished the place, and said, right, you can come back now. And so it just absolutely cements the generosity and the kindness of those people who, quite frankly, are treated and tarred with a brush by a lot of people that just don't know them. We walk around that area now, I can't pay for a taxi, I can't pay for a haircut, I can't walk in a shop. People won't take our money because they know who we are and what we do. And the irony is, the community around there aren't our biggest users at all. Very self-sufficient community. And so it's quite ironic they're so supportive when really 90% of the families and the people that we are feeding are just white working class people from other parts of the city. And so that's why that link's so important to me, because MD turns their nose up. It's dead simple. Do you know who's doing this for you? And it just stops them dead. Stops them. And it's a link that I want to hold on to as much as possible, because they're just amazingly kind, generous people. And yeah, so anyway, going to that, we were based there for a bit because of refurbishments and stuff. We ended up moving into the town centre, and I'll be honest, it's just got bigger and bigger and bigger. The one big thing about us that made us different was when we started Googling stuff, it became apparent that it's not as easy just to turn up somewhere and say, I can't feed my kids, can I have some food? You know, you've basically got to, in some respect or another, go and bare your ass to somebody and get a ticket to say that. But even when you do bare your ass to something, you can only go every 3 months. So, you know, it's just stupid. I mean, it was lunatic to the point of where I stopped even bothering and just said, right, we've got no referral criteria. You know, what we're going to go on is the weight of our story. You know, we're not a charity. We're absolutely not a charity. We're just a group of working people that sat down, and we saw a lot of people around us because we have a lot of trade union colleagues, friends at the Trades Council who are musicians in the gig economy and stuff like that, and they were just unemployed in a second, you know, and that's never picked up since. And you know, we look at our friends and then we realize there's 100 times more people out there in the exact same situation, hardworking people that have just been shat on and have, you know, 10-year 0-hour contracts. They've got no sick pay. They've got nothing. And it's just gone. They've just gone. And, you know, in a sad sort of way, if there's one thing that comes out of this whole situation, I hope to hell people become a wee bit more politically aware about how much they've been shafted over the past 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. And I don't restrict that comment to just the Conservative government. I'm just saying politics in general. Your average person lives in Hull, walks out the door, it looks exactly the same as it has done for the past 15 years. Nothing's changed. Nothing's changed. So when they're talking about protest votes and, you know, I'm voting this, don't give a shite, it's because people are just totally indifferent, because the reality on the street is no matter who's in power, no matter what decisions are getting made, when they walk out the front door, it's exactly bloody same as it was last week. And for the 10 years before that, objectively, nothing's changed, no matter who's at the top. So it didn't surprise me at all that we've created such a mess over Leave and Remain and everything else that's gone on in between, you know. So one of the big messages that we wanted to give to people was that we're not a political party. We're not a charity either. We don't want to know what your story is. We trust you. If you say, can you help me, we'll help you. You know, the bonus of being completely independent like that is the big thing that we all worried about, which hasn't happened, was people taking the mick. You know, essentially taking us for granted and us, you know, helping them out every week and stuff, and they don't need it, or they're having us on. You know, I think the phrase they used was turning up to a food bank in a Mercedes. You know, ironically, because we're not a charity, if that were to happen, we can quite happily stick two fingers up at them. But it never has. It genuinely hasn't. The message on the doorstep when we go to see people is, you know, if you need help, ask. That's it. That's it. And we reinforce that by saying who we are. You know, we're working people. We're not a charity. We're not the council. We're not getting money from anywhere to give out to people. We're just private individuals that happen to all share the same views and wanted to do something. You know, I mean, tomorrow morning we'll have everybody from nurses, teachers, full-time trade unionists, all sorts of people turning up to help. You know, teaching assistants, a lad who's a plumber, a couple of apprentices. You know, it's not some kind of bleeding heart sort of thing. Every single person that's turned up there has got friends or relatives who have lost out massively because of this. And we want to go to people's doorsteps and say, we've got to stop looking towards Downing Street or a Guildhall or a council for all the solution to all our problems. You know, they're paid to sort these problems out, but they ain't got a very good track record of it, have they? So, you know, we shouldn't exist. That's what we tell them. We shouldn't exist. And almost we're breaking our own golden rule, because what the trade unionists do, hold the people in power to account. But it's to the point of where we need a stopgap. People are going to starve to death in the meantime, you know. And the stories we get on the doorsteps are just incredible. But the gaps in the system are just astronomical, you know. And there's huge numbers of people that I call it unseen poverty. The scale of the unseen poverty in this city is astronomical. You know, what they know about is bad enough, but I tell you, with some of the doors we knock, you're thinking I've never seen anything like it in my life. I mean, I've lived here since 11, and used to live in Chester, irrespective. Turns out actually that was quite a fancy, well-to-do place, but I didn't know at the time. I'd just grown up there as a kid, and the first time I moved to Hull was when I really realised that, you know, 1992. I'm like, that kid I made friends with has still got an outside toilet and no bathroom. It's 1992. And then it turns out that's totally normal. And and all of a sudden I'm just dropped into this whole different world that I just never seen. But growing up in it, you just get used to it. But the older you get, you start to realise it doesn't have to be like this. And so we're trying to feed people and give them a bit of political message, in terms of, you know, you need to look out for yourself, and you need to start thinking, all of these politicians, doesn't matter who they are, none of them have got your interests at heart, none whatsoever. And, you know, I think that message is getting through, and if that'll, you know, if that even encourages people to vote who didn't before, that's a step in the right direction. I'd rather somebody voted than not voted at all. You know, we get into who you should vote for later, but it's a first step. But we're kind of liaising with the most disaffected people, and everything comes to us through text message or telephone. You know, there's no worry about circumstance and stuff, and people, surprisingly, you know, and I kind of apologize for this, that I started out with that assumption, we're just going to get our pants pulled down and you know, we'll get robbed blind, but it hasn't happened. Some of the poorest people I've met in this city over the past year have been some of the most respectable, decent people that I've ever met in my whole life. They've got nothing, but they're still the most generous people that I've ever met. We went to High Rise last week. What can we do for you? They wouldn't let us leave. They were fishing around their pockets for change, and we're saying no. And we said, I tell you what you can do. You can go and collect plastic bags for us. You know, and silly things like that. People with nothing are the first to offer everything they've got to you, and it's immensely heartwarming that people in such difficult situation can still be so positive. But it's not a position I'd like MD to be in, MD at all. You know, I've probably gone totally off track, but you know, ask me something now because I'm lost.
Oh, I just think that's absolutely unbelievable, Ken. What you're doing is so, it's sort of a double-edged sword, isn't it? It's something that is so necessary and wonderful that you've got all these people doing it, but also devastating that it is necessary, and that we sort of live in this society now. You mentioned there about just getting used to it and getting used to sort of the way you were brought up, and that's just how it was. Do you think that this is, now we're getting to the point where this has been going on so long that young people and children will just get used to this, that nipping to the food bank on a weekend or getting food parcels delivered is just the norm?
Sadly, I think it's the norm for a lot of people at the moment, but I don't, it's certainly not by choice. You know, there's not a single person that we ever talk to or meet really that doesn't feel anything apart from huge embarrassment from actually contacting us in the first place. And a lot of the discussions that we have on the doorstep, I say, look, it's not just you, you know, it's not your fault. It's not your fault. We're not giving you a handout. You know, you were working, we are working, we were lucky. We were just the ones lucky enough to keep our jobs. So we want to help the people that have lost them until they can get back on their feet. And, you know, we keep order books, and it does work, because we are not feeding 50, 60, 70 families a week of repeat visitors. It'll pick up third week of the month because the universal credits ran out because they've had the heating on for the first 3 weeks because they've been stuck in the house. And we've genuinely got people that lose jobs, and then we've helped them for a couple of weeks, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And then they disappear off the system. Some even get in touch with us and say, I'm so grateful. And we've had a few people get back in touch. I've said, I've got my job back. What can I do for you? So somebody, it's a pessimistic question, but it's a relevant one. Somebody rocks up and says, how many repeat customers have you got? It's a cynical question because they're angling at just exactly what you said, just people becoming dependent. But it's a tiny number. The routine ones we have are people, people who have been older, people who have been recently discharged from hospital, people with mental health issues, or people that have maybe just come out of hostels, the people who are out of work because they've had workplace injuries, industrial accidents, sickness, because there's a huge number of people that get ill. You get statutory sick pay, which is, you can't even wipe your backside on the however many notes that gets you every couple of weeks. And these are people that have been injured at work, and you think, what bloody disgrace, you just chuck them on the scrap heap, but 50p a week or whatever shitey amount sick pay is. And that's the biggest one. Every single person in this country should be getting paid at their full pay if they're on sick. You're bloody right about that. That solves so many problems. Because we see a lot of people like that as well. And it's an even bigger bloody disgrace when it's they've been injured at work and then they send them out and they pay them sick pay. What a disgrace. What a disgrace.
It's pretty clear that you are definitely part of the trade union movement. You can feel that coming through in everything you say. I'm a trade unionist myself, and I know it is very much a community. And obviously, you mentioned there about the Kurds helping out. I think that's unbelievable. I mean, it doesn't surprise me that that's the case. The people I've spoken to who were trying to do similar things, probably less successfully than you've done, have always said that you find sort of the diverse communities are the ones who really do come out swinging and really do have the biggest input. So have you seen a lot of, obviously we're in lockdown number 3 now. Have you seen a swell in community spirit, even though this is devastating and it's awful that people are starving? Have you seen that sort of need and want to help other people grow in the time that you've been doing this?
Yeah, massively. I mean, I think particularly a lot of the people that would have time to help are obviously caught up in bubbles or the shielding, or a lot of the time, and it comes back to people not getting paid leave if they have to isolate and stuff. It's a lot of those people who might have been retired or part-timers, they are now stuck in somebody's bubble looking after wee Jimmy and whatever for 3 days a week, and a lot of people get shielding letters and stuff, and so that's really restricted it. So we've had to be quite creative, because say the girl, absolutely amazing Jess, who does all our social media and stuff, she's been stuck in the house for months, and there's quite a number of others of us. So it's us trying to be creative and get the job done, and the people that are in a position to be out there doing the lifting and stuff, so to speak, we use them. But it's trying to engage everybody else who's absolutely desperate to get involved, but is just stuck and can't really get there at the minute.
So do you feel like this is something that you'll continue once the COVID situation's over? Is this something that's going to go on past that?
No, absolutely. It ain't going to stop. The only thing that is going to stop is when people ain't ringing us up saying, help me, I've got nothing to feed my 2 kids. And all this bollocks about spending it on fags and Sky Telly, that's just Daily Mail crap, innit? And that's what I love. That's why I'm so so insistent that everybody that helps us in any capacity gets out on the doorsteps, because that's how you get the real stories. And when somebody turns up repeating the same old tabloid trash about working class people that they love to print in the Daily Hail or whatever horrible newspaper is, I can talk for 3 days about people I've actually met that are the exact opposite of that. You know, we're talking about the lady that got out of hospital after 38 weeks, and what's going on? I've got nothing, Another lady who spent every penny she had. Her daughter was diagnosed with a sight condition, degenerative sight condition. And, another poor woman spent every penny she had on train tickets to Jimmy's in Leeds, and every time they get referred down to Ormond Street. And, it ain't fags and Sky Telly why people are skint. It simply isn't. It's everything. Everything's just moved around them. What's happened is their working conditions and the terms of employment have slowly been eroded over the last decade. And now something bad's hit. They've just realised that safety net has been engineered away from under them. Sick pay, family leave, all those sorts of things, even contracted hours. It's, and I think there was a bit of blasé over the past few years. Hard times, But, under that excuse of austerity, they basically stripped all the workers' terms and conditions away from them over the last 10, 15 years. And I include the last Labour government in that to a certain extent as well, because I think it was even Blair was repealing some of the strengths that the trade unions had enshrined in law. And so I'm fiercely apolitical in that I have equal kind of disdain for all. And that's kind of the strength of what we do. We're motivated by the people in front of us, not people in suits or whatever. We've got no concern for that, And just to go back to what you said about community spirit, the single biggest community spirit that I've essentially experienced is just the growing, I wouldn't say growing, the complete hatred of the political class. Doesn't matter who you are, you turn up on a doorstep in Hull at the moment and introduce yourself as a politician of any description, it's probably not going to go that well. And there you are,
Well, I can definitely relate with that, and I can probably point you in the direction of a few thousand people who think exactly the same. And I think, especially because the political system is the reason these people are having to text you for help, for food and warmth, which are things that are just human rights at the end of the day. And they are, and there's an argument, against that, but I disagree with it. And it sounds, and I know you're against sort of political systems. It sounds to me like what we need is a real socialist movement, by which I mean not like the Fabians, or I've been doing a bit of research recently on socialism, and if you watch any of our Origins shows that Paul does, when he asks people about socialism, the one thing that goes through everybody's interview is that socialism is about looking after each other, and it's not this sort of weird political construct that people are trying to say it is. And so I guess what I'm getting at is that people need to be awakened to the fact that our political systems are not working for the benefit of normal working class people, and that there has to be something else. Obviously, you and your team are doing amazing work, and you are trying to sort of look after people, but also you've mentioned that you are trying to push that narrative a little bit, that you essentially not need to look after yourself, need to look after each other in place of a government that is not looking after you. Yeah. Do you feel like you're getting that message across? Is it becoming successful? Have any of the people who use the service spoken to you about that kind of thing?
Yeah, massively. I mean, but I think the more aware they become, they get to the same position that I'm in now. I mean, who do you vote for? There's nobody existing now that represents anything close to what I believe. I refuse to use the word socialism because it's not understood well enough by many people. I don't mean that in a rude way. What I mean is it's been weaponized by right-wingers and other people to mean something totally different. So the problem is people have already decided what that word means before you use it. So I refuse to use it ever. I do understand what it means, and I love people saying I hate socialism. What about free NHS? Well, that's fairly socialist sort of thing, free stuff for people. Mine's simpler than that. It's a fundamental belief that the people around me, how the situation of the people around me directly affects my life, and that's just the general fundamental belief is if I live in a castle surrounded by shite, well, what's the point in that? What's the point in that? So it's this whole idea of everybody in it for himself. I mean, if there's ever a time where it's clear that it doesn't work, it's now. And so almost it's not a political message as such. It's saying people actually, this is what it means in simple terms. We just believe that the people the quality of life of the people you're surrounded with every day is important to your own quality of life. And that, that's it. That's it. But I don't use that word because it's been very craftily weaponized and people already think they know what that means, which is where, as soon as you say it, this and that, communist wanker or whatever else. And they're not even relatable.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's sort of half the reason that socialist think tanks started, because of the lack of understanding of what socialism is and the weaponization of it. You are absolutely on the money with that. And yeah, we do get called commies and all of that, and it's absolutely not what it's about. But I think if they changed the term socialism to community activism or something like that, it would mean the same thing, but that you're right, the word itself has taken a turn, hasn't it? The group that you're involved in, it's called the Whole Unity Shop, is that right?
It's called the Unity Shop. The kind of strapline, if you like, is solidarity, not charity, and that's a big important message, really.
I love that. I think that's absolutely amazing. And so how do people get involved? How can people help if they want to? I assume it's better to help locally.
Yeah, well, no, you can send me money from anywhere you like. But no, essentially, it's weird. We didn't start out like this because obviously when we first started thinking about this pre-COVID, first lockdown, oh, it's all right, it'll be over soon. And then it became very apparent very quickly that we couldn't do a drop-in service. We had all sorts of plans for a community centre, and we'd get volunteers down from like housing, citizens advice and stuff to have, and that all just went to crap pretty quick. So we thought, right, we've got to do delivery only, and that's when we really tried to angle it towards everything coming through online, So we've got a lady Sam, who looks after. She's basically got a phone, right, with all the social media, all the numbers, everything in it. And what happens is they just get in touch, text, Facebook, WhatsApp, ring us up, leave a voicemail, whatever you like. And that goes for people that need help, but as well, just unityshop.co.uk. You can get on there, you can have a look at our latest newsletter, which I wrote kind of for our first AGM as well. So I say a newsletter, it's more like the story so far. So you can have a look at the newsletter and realize all the bits that I missed out the story, because I'm probably going to get slapped later for the many people I've forgotten to kind of mention who were massively helpful, but I'm sure they'll take that with me later. But they're in the newsletter, and so that's worth having a wee look if you can. And certainly on there as well, we've got details about our donation box scheme. We're just trying to get going as well. So if people can take donation boxes in workplaces or whatever, and anything at all, if you think you've got something that we can use, give us a shout. Somebody brought us a fridge freezer last week. Brilliant. Thought you might have needed it. And the kind of a lot of our funding, we did a lot of work with union branches, and some of them in the city have been absolutely superb. The Unite Hull branch in particular have been a massive part of this. So of Unison Hull City branch, National Education Union, Hull and East Riding as well, and Unite especially have done massive work getting our thing out, getting our stuff out across the region. And you know, I had somebody phoned me from I think Rotherham today, saying, "Oh, I saw your newsletter. Where do I send a check?" And you know, so absolutely brilliant. And we're starting to get local businesses and stuff that are ringing us up because they believe in the message. You know, we independent places that are ringing up, going, I bake bread for a living. You know, I could do you 12 loaves on a Saturday. And you know, it's just loads of like local people chipping in local wee bits because they believe in that single message that we're not a charity. It's just it's all about solidarity. We working people who have just found themselves, albeit for an extended time, just, you know, on the bones of their ass, basically. You know? Yeah.
Well, I believe in your message as well, Ken. I think it's just brilliant what you're doing. We will share your links. We will all over the country, all over the world. We have a lot of viewers from America, actually. I'm sure Ken can take electronic donations. Please do feel free to donate.
Absolutely. I think I might get one set up pretty quick. Aye.
Well, thank you so much for coming on and speaking to me tonight, Ken. It's been an absolute pleasure. And thank God for people like you and your team who are really making such a huge difference. So with that, it's just thanks from Ken from the Hull Unity Shop. We will put all of the links to that, how you can get involved, how you can donate, in the chat when this goes out. Thanks again. And please don't forget to like, share and subscribe.
Keep the red flag flying.